Zimbabwean man that I was dating, and this man, he betrayed me because when he left to go to his country, he did not come to take the snake that he was using to get customers for his truck that he had. Even though I am staying here in Joburg, but he was working in Durban. He had his own truck and he was driving his own truck. And we met when I was working at a truck stop. Unfortunately, I lost my job and now I am suffering. I am looking currently for a job if there is anyone that wants to give me a job as a maid. My name, you will call me name hidden. Please do not share my real name. I am 45 years old and I stay here in Joburg, and I was born and I was raised here in Gauteng. Life has become so difficult for me. There are times when I can even see that I don't even have money to buy a single unit of electricity. Food that used to be there plentiful in my kitchen, now we do not have any food at all. I used to have tenants, but when tenants stay at my house, they just leave because if they have young children, those children will be haunted by this Tokoloshe, and I do not have any peace at all in my heart. I am writing this confession to your channel because I want to tell South Africans and the entire world what happens when you open your door to people whom you think will give you quick money, but they will end up messing your whole world. I want you to know to never play with fire if you do not have water nearby. That fire, it will burn you. To think that my late husband left for me this property and he said, my wife, if I die, I know that you and the kids, you are not going to suffer. If things go bad, you can put anyone and you can rent the house and you can stay in one room as long as you will be having some money. And I ended up dating a man that came and he messed up everything that my husband tried to build from his family. So this is how my life completely fell apart. I had been working at this other truck stop, as I have told you, in Durban, and my kids were here in Joburg. And me and him, we started to go out together. And he was someone that was pretty young, but he was a Zimbabwean national. He was working as a long distance cross border truck driver. When I met him, he looked like he knew what he wanted in life. He had already settled down with a wife and they had two kids. But he said that he was in love with me and he wanted to give me something that I had been missing, true love that I had been missing ever since my husband had passed away. I did not know that this man that I was dealing with, he was someone that had a Tokoloshe. With his age, to even think about Tokoloshe, it was a real non-starter. Who would have led him to those dangerous sangomas that give people Tokoloshes at such a young age? But you should never ever judge the book by its cover, because someone will surprise you like the way that my boyfriend surprised me. So he told me that he was going to look for a job for me. I worked once at a warehouse where he used to offload. He knew the manager, who was also a foreign national, and through him I got the job as a manager. I was earning a lot of money. Through that money, I tell you, I was being assisted by my boyfriend. That is when I managed to renovate the house, and it was just amazing to have found a man that was properly organized like that. At his age, when I would see him, I'll be like, this maybe was supposed to be my husband, even though he was born in another country, but he is so responsible. And I said, God, you gave me a good blessing. My husband, who was responsible as well, after he passed away, he had built a house for me and the kids. And here I am right now. I am in the arms of a man that is very young, who is supposed to be bothering me by cheating, giving me STIs. You know how the young boys are. But this man, very responsible, always thinking and planning about the future. He never even requested that thing that I used to hear and I was afraid of when I started to date him, that most men that are foreigners, they only date South African women because they only have one particular thing in their mind, is to just get a South African ID. As for him, I was the one that wanted to benefit something from him because he was already someone that had made it in life. He now had a personal truck of his own and he was driving for himself. The money that he would make, he would tell me. As a woman, I understood that he was a married man. He was already married when I had met him. There was no way that I was ever going to fight with the wife and say that I need ABC. I was just respectful of their marriage, and he had promised me that he himself, he was going to make sure that I was always to get everything that I wanted so that I won't feel bad. In terms of the conjugal rights, he made sure that I had access to him at all the times. He gave me the same time that he gave it to his wife. If he would go with his wife this week on a trip, when he's coming back, he's taking me. I am going with him. So I was really satisfied with the way that my life with my Zim boyfriend was going. Life was really amazing, and I did not wish for anything else other than to be his wife for the rest of my life. I was prepared even to become the second wife. After we had renovated the house and the renovations were done, that was when I decided that I wanted to return back to Joburg to just sit down and to relax the money of my boyfriend, because he was getting some contracts from the Indian. He was loading from Durban Harbour and going to the warehouses. So the money that he was earning, for someone that had two wives, I was considering the fact that I was no longer a girlfriend. I was like a wife to him. I said that this man, he is giving me money that is above my salary. So why even bother going to work? Because the first wife, all that she did was to wake up and sit on the mirror to do her makeup. I also wanted to do the same. You know, as women, we are always jealous when it comes to those sensitive topics. So I refused to go to work, and he said, okay, it's fine. If you do not want to go to work, I'm not going to fight with you. You can stay at home. I will pay the bills and everything. So I was now staying at home, totally being dependent on my Zimbabwean boyfriend. Fast forward, we then had a particular accident. And in that accident, there was something that died. Maybe this was the beginning of his problems, even though he never told me what really transpired when that accident happened. He just called me and he said, baby, I just got an accident. And I said, are you okay? He said, I am okay. And I said, what about the truck? He said that, baby, the truck is okay, but there is someone that has passed away. So there was another person that had passed away in that accident. After that accident had happened, I can say that things were no longer normal with him. He was always full of anxiety. Whenever he was at my house, I could tell that there is something that is wrong with my boyfriend. He always had this anxiety that I could not understand where this anxiety was coming from. Maybe he was seeing the ghost of the person that had been hit by the truck, even though this was not his problem, because this person was trying to jump onto the trailer to steal, and he did not notice that there was someone that was jumping onto the trailer. So that person tripped and fell and was dragged for about 2 meters by the trailer of the truck, and then people stopped him and said, you are dragging something at the back. And it was this guy who was a Nyaupe that had been trying to steal from the truck, because they steal cables, they steal even the things that you'll be carrying in the truck. So he just got arrested. It went to court. Even the cameras that were close by, they showed that he was not the one to be blamed. this man was the one that had jumped into the wheels of the moving truck. I can say that after this accident, that was when my boyfriend he started to open up. I think 6 months after that accident had happened, he told me that he was having nightmares. I would even tell him that if he had problems, he was supposed to go for therapy because he kept on saying that he was having nightmares in the truck. He was afraid to sleep in the truck. He was afraid to also drive at night, which is very difficult. If you are running a trucking company, you only work during the day. You're not going to make a lot of money. Once the sun would have gone down, you would find a place to park the truck and go and book a room because he was afraid of being in the truck. So because of the accident, everyone just thought that maybe he was having trauma, and he told me that he was tired of driving trucks, this and that. He was just complaining nonstop. He was no longer that man that I had been willing to get married to because of the fact that I had seen that he was a hardworking man and he was very reliable and he was very responsible as a man. One day, he then said to me, name hidden. He called my name. I looked at him and he said, I love you. You know that. And I said, I love you too. You know it. He then said, if I continue to work alone, I will never, ever be rich like what other guys from my country are doing. They have so much money. Now there are too many transport companies and there is too much competition at the port where he was picking up the load for the Indians in Durban. He then said, if you want to be rich, you need to have someone that is helping you. I said, oh, you want to hire someone? Already I had this other friend of mine who had a son. He had graduated but was unable to get a job. So I had spoken with my Zim boyfriend and I had told him that it would be the best thing that he would have ever done for me if he was going to teach that young boy how to drive trucks. So I said, do you want me to call them so that this boy can come and you can see him? And he said, no, I don't mean like a human being. And I said, so what kind of a helper do you want? He openly confessed to me that he had visited a powerful healer back in his country, and he told me that he had purchased a powerful money attracting Tokoloshe. When he said Tokoloshe, I nearly fell down. I nearly choked myself because we were eating rice. He told me that this Tokoloshe was going to give him money and he would get a lot of contracts. I felt a shiver running down my spine. I could not believe that this was what I was hearing. Growing up, we all know about the Tokoloshe and Ukutwala. I was terrified. I stood up and I said, no, no, no mentioning of Tokoloshes in this house. And I went to our bedroom. He followed me and I said, I don't want you to do anything with these Tokoloshes. I am a Christian and I don't want rituals in my life. But he manipulated me. We were in bed. We were doing it spoon feeding, if you know it. I was facing the other way. He was behind me. He started to play with me. He played with me until I felt like I could give him anything. He kept on manipulating me, doing me so nice. He just said, Mommy, let us do this. And I said, and like, you want me to do what exactly? Because you are the one that is the business owner. What do you want me to do? He was calling me wife by then. He said, please, my wife, I was told that I have to rent a room where I have to keep these things safe. And they said, oh, a room. You want to put what in that room? He said, Mommy, I can't do that because if I rent a room in the township, people will always be snooping around. And if I go to work and these things are touched by another person, my wife, we are going to lose everything. If you want, let me put the bag that I will bring. It is in my truck, and then we put it inside of the ceiling. No one is supposed to see it. No one is going to know that it is them. It just sits in your ceiling, and then I will be able to make a lot of money. Mommy, I'm going to buy a car for you. I can buy a second house. Yo, Shem, it was amazing. That romance that he was giving to me, he was even massaging my back, and it felt wonderful. So I looked back at him and I said, with all the love that he has shown me, how can he hurt me? Besides, it is in our culture as Black people to have some things that protect us in our business. God forgive me because I agreed during sex, and the truck was parked outside of my yard. I remember he went outside, and when he came back, I did not even bother to check what was inside of that bag. He came back to the bedroom. When he came back to the bedroom, I asked him the particulars of the things that were inside that bag. That was when he told me that there was a skin of a python that was inside, and I was like, what? The skin of a python? I was really scared. I said, won't it get me arrested? And he said, who is going to know that you have the skin of a python inside of our ceiling? Even the witches, they will avoid this house from today going onwards. He then returned back to work. When he returned back to work, he called me, baby, things are moving very well. He was getting loaded non-stop. He even got another driver from his country that he was working with. His truck did not even sleep. If he was sleeping, the other driver was the one that was driving. When he wakes up, he takes the wheel of the truck and he starts driving. He was making a lot of money. Whenever he would have returned back to Gauteng at my house, if he would have gone to see his wife first, or he comes to see me first, because this was like a polygamy that was happening now, he would go into the ceiling and then he would take the bag and take it into the garage. I never even bothered to check what was happening with this bag that he had put into my ceiling. He would talk with that bag. All that I cared about was the money that my man was making. Then around 2025, that year, it was very difficult for foreign truck drivers that have been working in South Africa. They started to play some voice notes for me. There was this other organization that is ADTF. It was just Dudula everyone that was working as truck drivers there by Durban Harbour. So if you had a truck and you are a foreigner, it was difficult to operate. This was according to what my boyfriend was telling me. He told me that he wanted to stop working, and by then he opened up that he was even using a fake license. How he had gotten a fake license and a fake work permit, I do not even know. One day he called me. We were in mid 2025. He told me that there was a strike, but he just went to pick up a load and he was going to rest at the place where he was staying. And then that was when he met up with some guys, and then they started to fight with him, and he did not have proper papers, and he ran away because they saw that even his driver's license, it was a fake one, and he ran away. He just called me and he said, I'm not going to wait for these guys. They want to scan my license. It is not in the system. He ran off with his driver and he went to his country. He called me that night and he told me that the truck that he had abandoned, it was at the police and he was supposed to go to the police. And I said, so what are you going to do? And they said, no, I'm just going back home. By then, he had already instructed the wife to go to the bus station, and she had listened to the husband. She went and she got onto the bus and she went to Zim and they met. I don't know what happened after that, because I was speaking with Tendai all this while. I am in Musina. I'm doing this, baby. I'm going to return back. Okay, it's fine. He just told me that he was not going to abandon me. So in my mind, I thought that he was going to fix his papers. After he would have fixed his papers, then he would return back to me. The moment that this Tendai crossed the border back into his country, he completely vanished, and I did not have any phone numbers of his or the relatives. Like, we were just enjoying life. I did not even take the time to think about what the future was going to hold for us if it happened that you will even die at my house, because I did not even have the numbers of the wife, the first wife. So I did not have any phone numbers. I only had his South African phone number. He arrived in his country, and that one I know for sure, because later on I saw that he had blocked me on the WhatsApp. It was no longer going through when I even tried to use a different number. That is how he abandoned me. For the first 3 months after he had ran away, I was living in anxiety, not knowing what else I would do financially, because I was heavily dependent on my Zimbabwean boyfriend. Now he had left me. Then something started to happen. One night, I woke up. I was on the bed, and the way that I was sleeping on the bed, it was like I was bending over for Tendai. By then, I was missing him. I was even wearing a black night dress, even with some heels on, like the way that he used to tell me to do, the styles that he enjoyed. What surprised me was that I did not see Tendai behind me. I saw a snake that was trying to enter into my private part. I screamed even in my sleep, and I woke up. My daughter was knocking on my door. Mom, mom, what is wrong? And I said that I had a terrible nightmare. A snake was trying to sleep with me. And then she sat on the bed. She was just like, Mom, that is the exact dream that I was having. There was a snake that I was seeing that wanted to sleep with me. It has happened. And I asked him, when did it start to happen? My daughter then told me that she had started seeing this snake ever since that time when I calculated the dates, and it seemed as if it was close to the month when I had allowed Tendai to put his Tokoloshe into my ceiling. So this man, he had now run away. I don't have any kind of way to communicate with him. I could not tell my daughter that we have a Tokoloshe that is in the ceiling. I tried to even get a job. I got fired over nothing. I did not even do any mistake. The boss just told me that they were going to give me my money at the end of the day. I should stop coming to work. Tendai never even came back to me. I'm now struggling. When I started to struggle, when you have a house, you do have municipal bills that you need to pay. I am struggling to buy even basic necessities. So desperate to make some money, I then decided to rent out some rooms inside of my house and to build some backyard structures. Then a Malawian couple, they came and they started to stay. They were looking for accommodation. Since they were very quiet and they paid their deposit cash, and they moved into the house. So everything was okay. Having tenants, I knew that now I would be able to pay some of the bills whilst I was busy looking for a job. Week number 3, they called me and then they said, Sister, we are very sorry. We are going to pay you your money for this month end, but we have already gotten another place to stay. They started by trying to lie at me. And I sensed that these people, they are lying to me, because they were like, oh, our boss has told us that we are supposed to come and stay. And they had forgotten that they had told me that they rely on piece jobs. What kind of a boss can give you accommodation if you are doing maybe 2 days work at his house and allow you to go and do some piece jobs at another house? So after I had reminded them that this was what they had told me when they said that they are looking for accommodation, and then they said to me, oh, we have to be honest with you. I said, okay, be honest with me. What is going on? That was when they said, Sister, it is not you. It is something that is inside of this house of yours. We have been trying to sleep. Our child is very sick at all the times. When it is at night, our child has a fever. So we went to Esangoma from our country. I said, Esangoma, what do you mean? What is wrong with my house? That was when the husband said, at night, we have been hearing something that moves in the ceiling. We can even hear this thing dropping on the floor. Then it will start to move, and it is a snake. My wife has been having dreams sleeping with a snake. So we went to a Sangoma, and the Sangoma told us that the landlord has a Tokoloshe that is living inside of a house. I chased them away, but I knew that they were telling me the truth. I said, you are the ones who brought this Tokoloshe to my house. I don't want you at my house anymore. Leave my house immediately. They paid the rentals, and then they went to stay where they went to. And I now had a question in my mind. Do I have a Tokoloshe in my house? I've been thinking about it. When those Malawians left, there were two more tenants that came that told me the same thing, that there is a Tokoloshe in this house. If someone would come with a child even to visit any of my tenants, then that child will not sleep, guys. Throughout the night, this child is just crying throughout the night. I then started to consult on my own. When I consulted on my own, truth be told, that was when I was told that I do have a Tokoloshe. This Tokoloshe, it is in form of a snake, and this snake, it is craving blood. I said, hey, I have a Tokoloshe. Where did I get this Tokoloshe from? The Sangoma then said, you know where you went to take this Tokoloshe. And I said, I never went to Zim, because the Sangoma was saying that you went to Zim to go and collect a Tokoloshe. If your relatives find out, that is what I fear the most. Right now, I do have my cousin sister who stays in Pretoria. This cousin sister of mine has a son who is running mad. And I was given a prophecy that this boy, he is going to kill me. He's going to come and he's going to kill me, because he's going to be possessed by this spirit of the Tokoloshe, for it wants blood, and it even wants my blood. So I am very protective. When I hear that this boy is in Joburg, I even bought some big dogs. At night, I lock every room, and I lock myself in the bedroom. I can't even sleep because I fear that one day he is going to come. If I hear the dogs barking, I even put a CCTV. When I hear the dogs barking, I just switch on everything and I look. I can even call the police and say that there is someone that is trying to break through, because of the way that I have so much anxiety, because I was told that this boy is going to end up killing me when he becomes possessed. So I am always avoiding being around him. I am destroyed financially. I am destroyed. And mentally, I do not know if I am still a human being or I have died a very long time ago. To sleep, it is a luxury that I do not even have right now. My kids, they're no longer staying at home. My daughter hurts me because she is moving from one boyfriend to another, something that I never ever imagined will happen to my daughter, for she was bright and intelligent in school. Here I am, brother. If there is anyone that can assist me to cleanse my house, but I do not have cash right now, please, I am at a breaking point. I stay alone in this house. It gets scary at night, but I fear my cousin sister's son more than anything, because when he starts to run mad, he mentions my name. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to us by one of our dear sister. Let us speak with our dear sister in the comment section. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. If you have any confession that you wish to share with us, please do so in our, you can come to our Facebook and share with us your own side of the story.